Well, hello and welcome to the Sports Bar Show for another week of chewing the fat and talking balls here at Bacup Borough Football Club. I am Steve Brown. Alongside me, as always, every week is the manager here at Bacup Borough, Brent Peters.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
I'm not too bad. You?
I'm all right. Bearing up under the spray.
What kind of week you had?
Beginning of week, it was really.
Oh, you were.
It was really hard work. And talk about license to print money. These insurance companies, blimey. I'm not being funny. That is a license to print money, because as you know, I invested in another. This is for me.
Yeah, you got another truck on the road.
Yeah, I invested in another van, and obviously I started a new driver. Start a new driver, you have to put him on insurance, and nature of our game is we're couriers, so it's kind of a white van man. It's kind of
whack 'em.
It's high risk, but I kind of get, so obviously I'm shopping around trying to get the best quotes I could get. But when you go to your regular insurance company who already insure 2 vehicles for you, and I give an address on the new driver's license, and they give me a quote on to add him onto all my vehicles.
Yeah.
And then you realise that that's not where he lives now. He lives in a very similar vicinity.
Yeah.
Not far away. And so you inform him and say, oh, he actually doesn't live at that postcode. He lives at this postcode, but it's only
a couple of
streets away. And straight away they've gone, oh, well, the bad news is there's a £95 for that. £95 just to because he's moved streets off his licence. Yeah, £95. So anyway, needless to say, I'm shopping about. So I went to another insurance company.
Yeah.
And again, when I was inputting the information, they had the information online as what were on his licence. So again, I had to correct them and say that's not where he kind of lives.
Yeah, he's now living at this address.
He's living at this address. And I'm bracing myself for it to go up, and you know what they said?
It's gone down.
It's gone down. What?
And that just proves you what a con it is.
Exactly.
It's corrupt, isn't it?
It's corrupt. Massively. You know, it's just like, it's a lottery. So yeah, so it was frustrating at the start of the week. Even more frustrating because my beloved Manchester United failed on Wednesday night.
Well, that's the main topic of our show today.
And
so we'll be picking up on all that.
Yeah, but yesterday I was around a few pricks. I had my second jab.
You said you were saying that he was a bit of a butcher. He was really ramming this prick into you.
Oh, let me tell you. I went for my first one, same place, same cubicle 4, no problem.
Cubicle 4, Peters.
But it was a female that did it the last time, and
a bit of tender loving care.
No problem. This time I go in cubicle 4.
Butcher Bob.
Gage Harbour. Butcher Bob's there. Honestly, Butcher Bob. I couldn't believe it. He's talking to me 1 minute, next minute, I'm going, fucking heck, man. He's rammed it into me. He said, it's all done now. I went, blimey.
Bet you've never had it rammed into you before.
Oh. So there you go. So when I come, how's it gone today? I said, well, we're all right, but I've been butchered.
There is a bit of a fanfare this morning, because I think last night at about 8:22 we were allowed back on Twitter.
Don't get me on that one. Well, it's madness.
A week without Twitter.
A week. You know,
for what, Brent? For what? I still don't know what.
Well, let me tell you what happened, right? So, I've told you this.
I just can't.
I've told you before.
I mentioned it last week.
There's a certain Mr. McBride who loves to talk about all things Manchester United.
Yeah, he put some good comments on there.
Yeah. So, and I kind of, I know him with cross swords because he's been a football manager.
You talk a lot of football.
So we talk a lot of football. So I kind of jumped onto one of his tweets after the Fulham match, after Manchester United had played Fulham. And all it said, this is exact word for word that it said, was, our under-10s play at a quicker tempo than Manchester United play.
Yeah. Really saying that United were sluggish and they were pedestrian.
Yeah, that was it.
That's it.
That was it. And I see worse things that happening all the time on social media.
Well, we're going to get onto that as well.
And the next thing, we get violated. Because that is because somebody, whoever that somebody
The
is...
computer automatically knocks you off, doesn't it?
Automatic, but you know what? We shouldn't tell these secrets away, but I'm going to tell it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Be
if
careful,
I don't like you,
Yeah.
I could report you. I could just
Or
go
you
on
want to do sabotage against another football club.
A football club. All I do is report it, right? Report a tweet. And basically say, it tells you something, report it. And if you press report, right, a computer picks that up and immediately, without even looking at it, digesting it, it closes you down. Closes you down.
And then when you try and converse, when you try and get in touch with Twitter to try and get them to rectify the issue, there's nobody replies.
There's nobody replies. It's a machine that's doing it all the time. So it's crazy. And then what really upsets me even more, this is even more, when there's footballers, or no matter whether it's footballers, film stars, or whoever it is.
They're being racially abused.
They're being racially abused. I mean, when Marcus Rashford gets his phone and there's 70 odd and counting racially abused comments on his phone, and we've got barred for that comment.
For having a conversation.
A conversation, which could be any day conversations, like us having a chat today and say, you know what, our under-10s play quicker than Man United play. What's wrong with that?
And you laugh about it and
carry on. Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, there's something not... It's crazy what's going on. So they need to do something. Computers can't be running, actually dictating what goes on.
You need a physical team to be able to look at the tweet and say, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, exactly. But it doesn't happen that way.
So we're back on anyway. So hopefully this will be back on Twitter. Unless we've told someone about what you can do to violate someone, and they'll just go,
well, that's what's happening.
That's what's happening. It's as easy as that.
It's as easy as that, definitely. If you don't like somebody, or you want to just be...
Close them down for a week.
Just close them down for a week. Just knock them off. Quiet them off. It's ridiculous, honestly. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy, but anyway.
Moving on to the topics, because it's one big subject is this show. It's all, well, vast majority of it is Manchester United, the Europa League final the other night with Villareal. Didn't go to plan, did it?
Well, to be honest, Steve, I don't think, look, we can come on. I've said it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I've tried to be, look, I'm very, very close to Man United. I've been for a long, long number of years, got good contacts, good friends in the club, that's employed by the club.
But you're not going to lie, are you?
But I'm not going to lie when I see, what I'm seeing from an outsider looking in, and I see it. And if we're doing a show, I'm not going to come on here and cheapen the show by kind of not being honest. I'm going to be honest.
We won't do a show otherwise, would we?
Well, no. And I'm going to be honest, and I've been saying it for weeks. It's fantastic that they're, that they finish runners up, and it is a progression on where they finished last year. It's fantastic that they've qualified for the Champions League next year, which again is kind of everything's an improvement. So there has been improvements, but then you look at it and think, well, really, has there been improvements? Because is that because the Premier League has not been as competitive? Is that the reason? Because when you watch the games that Manchester United have played in and what's gone on, you kind of you think to yourself, you scratch your heads, because there's games that and you've played, and I've said it before, is they've got some quality players. Cavani, for instance. Yeah. So if he steps up to the plate and he comes on, for as bad as they're playing, he can be the difference at the top end of the pitch, where you win a game rather than draw or lose a game.
Yeah.
He can kind of be the difference. Equally, the other situation is at the other side of the pitch, where we've seen it in games where they've got absolutely battered, right? But the goalkeeper has done his job at the back end of the pitch. So, but in between, it's been kind of poor to watch, and it's not certainly Manchester United way. Now, did I think going into the Europa final that they'd win it, all hand on heart? I've got to admit that I was sceptical because I haven't seen any improvements in any of Man United's games.
No.
So I was sceptical. I kind of obviously wanted them to win more than anything. I kind of, but I thought, I'm not so sure because one thing about Manchester United is that they always concede. They don't keep many clean sheets.
Yeah.
So that, in my mind, going into the game, were proving to be a bit of a problem in my.
And the Spanish clubs are always very tactical.
Yeah.
So if they do get a goal, they're difficult to break down.
Difficult to break down, yeah. So I kind of was sceptical going into the game, and how the game unfolded it just proved that it was deja vu, what's happened all along, from all the season. But again, we're on the show and we're talking about Manchester United and City, but we're talking about a club. Just take away the final at the minute and the result of the final. We're talking about a club here that Ole, since he's been in charge, he's done what he set out to do. And don't forget, he got dealt a bad hand. Two managers before him have bitten the dust. Van Gaal and Jose Mourinho have gone.
Yeah.
We've got it. People have short memories. Why did they go? They went because and Jose Mourinho won the Europa Cup, but he still went because things weren't right.
Yeah.
Now the difference between Jose, as I can see, and Ole is Ole won't shove a player under the bus. Jose will.
Yeah. Well, he's done it a few times.
And the fact that Jose,
big players.
and the fact that Jose has, and that can be a bit problematic in terms of if you could lose the changing room.
Well, players have power.
And players have power, yeah, exactly. So the simple fact of the matter is, those managers, Van Gaal and Jose Mourinho, were more experienced than Ole. Failed. For whatever reason, failed. Now, they've brought players in, and whether it's them that's brought players in or the recruitment team, I believe, let's be honest, it's not now the managers. In modern day football, very seldom do the managers bring these players in.
But you spoke about the recruitment at Manchester United on many occasions, not just on the sports bar, but in passing with me, and you're not happy with the recruitment at Manchester United.
The recruitment's been poor. Extremely poor. Now, there's some, obviously, when we've seen it, and always, because Manchester United are about this, giving the youth a chance in their academy and people that's been brought up through.
Having that pathway.
And he has introduced these players, and I think the future bodes well on that side of things. But at the minute, they're not ready. They're on the peripheral, but they're not ready. So the fact of the matter is, they still need some massive investment, to be challenging and, just get them over the line to actually be winning trophies. But I kind of think that Ole's been getting, it's concerned me a lot as this. Ole has got, now whether it's his fault, whether it's the club's fault, I'm not so sure. I'm not privy. But I honestly believe that the guy has been dealt a real short straw and a real hammer blow in the fact that he's been given an opportunity to manage probably one of the biggest clubs in the world, which obviously brings with it a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
More pressure than any of the other.
Well, you can see that pressure.
We can see that pressure, yeah. Now, under normal circumstances, would somebody with the CV, and again, we're coming back to CVs, of Ole, have got a job like Manchester United? The chances are it wouldn't happen. You wouldn't happen. I mean, it's like, we can talk about managers in non-league football, and it's like they could put the CV in. Would they get that chance to put? Managers who've done
Sentiment has certainly gone in the pot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But not only. you know, he's one. Listen, Manchester United. If it weren't Ollie, they were trying to. You know, Ryan Giggs. Don't forget, Ollie came out the blue. To be honest, because if I would have been a betting man, I would have thought that Ryan were going to get the job, because obviously he stepped in, and actually he was plying his trade by Van Gaal, because Van Gaal, he was learning off Van.
Brought him in.
So I thought he was going to be the long term. He was going to be there for the
like the long haul.
The long haul, and he would be the next Manchester United manager. The fact that Ollie came in were kind of a bit of a shock, not because anything wrong with Ollie in terms, but he'd never been mentioned, and it was like a bolt out of the blue.
Yeah.
But Ollie comes in now. Look, he's an icon at Man United. He's worked under Sir Alex Ferguson as a player, and the fans loved him as a player. And
the mentality's already there.
It's already there, and he's gone out, and I mean, people are quick to talk about what he didn't do or did do at Cardiff City and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a load of rubbish, because again, and I'll argue this point till I'm blue in the face. Just because somebody's got a relegation on the CV doesn't mean to say that they're a bad manager. It means to say sometimes the circumstances. You could be at a club. I used to say this when Sir Alex Ferguson was the manager of Manchester United. If the Borough position, when Borough were going, if Borough FC were going, and the managerial job were vacant, and Sir Alex weren't at Manchester United, he was in between jobs. Would he have took Borough Football Club?
No, I can't.
Well, why?
Well, because if it ends up like a car crash, he'll never get another job again.
There you go. So, you know what I'm saying? That's my point. So it wouldn't happen.
That's why the big managers, they don't want to touch them little jobs with a barge pole.
Exactly. I mean, I can remember a few. I know I'm digressing a little bit here, but I can remember a few seasons ago. We've locked on. The person I'm going to talk about, and sadly he's not with us now, and he was a great guy, a great manager. On Tameside, he was successful at Curzon Ashton.
Mr. Curzon.
Successful at Hyde United. Was the late Gary Lowe.
Yeah.
Now, when Gary were in between jobs, and he was desperate to get back in jobs, and he were applying for jobs at conference level, or I'd even say to an extent, probably even Division 2, because his CV showed that he were capable of taking them jobs, but he was out of the game, and he wasn't in the game, and he kind of we're doing a bit of work for me when we played AFC Fylde in the final of the Lancashire Football Association Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
He'd compiled a dossier for me to set my team up against Fylde, and stuff like that. So he was working for me. But I wanted him I said, look, get yourself involved. At that time, I didn't have nobody in the dugout with me to bounce anything off. I was working kind of on my own. And I said, come and get involved with me here. Now, his exact words, and he had a point here. I'll help you all I can, Brent. I'm shoulder to shoulder with you, but I kind of don't want it out there in the media that I'm working with you, because what'll happen...
I've got to protect myself.
Yeah, what'll happen if Bacup, if we have indifferent results and Bacup are struggling, that'll reflect back on me in a way when I'm after a conference national job.
Yeah, there's a selfishness about it, but at the same time, you understand totally what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's protecting his...
Yeah, and the reason why he'd be thinking that is because, and this is what happens at all levels, at Curzon Ashton or Hyde United, he could go out and get an £150, £200 a week player.
Yeah.
At Bacup Borough,
25 quid. If you're lucky.
You know what I'm saying? That's the difference.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with different levels of players.
Yeah.
So
he can make things happen.
Yeah. So my point is, and this brings me back into the man. So what happens is, when you, a manager, so if you pick the wrong club or whatever, right, you pick the wrong club. If you're applying for a job and it's a wrong club, it could do you long term, it could do you a lot of harm. especially if you're starting off, because you haven't proved yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not because nobody thinks you can't manage and you can't deal with it. You're probably, in all honesty, you're probably inside you're a really, really good manager. But the unfortunate thing is the club hasn't got the tools, i.e. the money, to back you, to bring into the quality that you'd want, that for the level of football that you're playing, to kind of be successful.
Yeah.
And it could go the other way. And you could even lean that towards a kind of a Burnley situation. You know, could Sean Dyche manage a Tottenham Hotspur? Could Sean Dyche manage a Manchester United?
I think he certainly can.
Well, exactly. But the thing is, but the cynics out there will say he can't because his CV says, what's he ever done at Burnley? He all right, he relegated them from Premiership into Championship.
Brought them straight back.
But then they're on pre-feel of relegation again. Which is bonkers, it's bollocks.
But then they've been in.
Sorry about that.
But it's all right. But they've been in Europe as well.
Yeah. So my point that I'm trying to make is, irrespective of you've had a relegation on your CV, doesn't make you a bad manager. End of. That's it. Oh. It doesn't. And them are the points I'm making. So going back to the situation in Manchester United. So they appoint Ollie. Now this is my point now. This is where I feel that Ollie has been badly let down. Because Ollie's been put in that situation, he needs with him a trusted number two. And when I say trusted, I mean not somebody that's been a coach, somebody that's been there, seen it, done it, got the experience of managing game situations. And this is what I'm talking. I'm not talking about off the pitch. I'm talking about in real time when you're out there. And we've all, look, there'll be several non-league managers listening to this and understand where I'm coming from when they hear me say this. When you're out there in battle, no matter what happens, you can set your stall out accordingly. You know how you want to play. You've structured your side. This is how we've got to do. But if you're going into battle with the opposition and they've got equally in their camp astute coaches that will change things to counteract your threat, there comes a time where things what you feel are the best for your team aren't working. And at that point, you've got to make quick thinking decisions while game's in progress to try and change something to get yourself back in the game. And it's them situations where I think that Ollie struggles because he hasn't got the experience round him to look to bounce things off.
Yeah, you saw that.
And you saw it the other night.
He was a man on his own.
100%. And I'm not being disrespectful to Michael Carrick. I'm not being disrespectful to Kieran McKenna. I'm not being disrespectful to Mickey Phelan.
But they're coaches.
In my opinion, they're coaches. And they're not the people when things need tweaking. And it's like, for instance, let's talk about Bacup Borough for a second here, right? So we have a game plan and we win a lot of our games, and our main player, who's our orchestrator, we'll say in this instance is Michael Gervin, right? He's our orchestrator. He plays between the lines.
Which is our Fernandes.
Yeah. He plays between the lines, and we go into games and we know that if he's on it, we'll be on it. But then clubs that have done their own work might nullify him, take him out of the game. Now we'll quickly see that.
And Emery did that.
Yeah, Emery did that on Hernandez.
He did, yeah.
So I will quickly identify that situation within 10 minutes, with no doubts about it, 10 minutes. That becomes a point where I go to my head coach and I will say to him, we need to change this because we're playing with 10 men at the minute. Yeah. He's been taken out of the game. So we've got to talk between us very quick. Well, what are you thinking? Well, it's not. It's certainly not working. We'll give it another. We'll give it another 10 minutes. See how it goes. But we might have to change it. We might have to take him out. We might have to even take him off.
Yeah.
Because it's pointless. Because they've nullified him. So we have to have a rethink our strategy.
But this has got to happen quick.
But it's got to happen quick. Now, these things happen in games, and I've been in the game a long time and managerial. And they have to happen. You have to change things. You can't sit there. And I noticed several weeks ago somebody put on. I think it was Matty Bryan actually put on Twitter when they were going mad about United and Ollie hadn't made any substitutions, and they were saying, "Blinking out, Brent had done it. He's done it after 15 minutes."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can see that it's not working, and sometimes you've got to make those ruthless decisions.
Yeah.
And if it means that you've got to take a player off, and he can be probably
your captain.
8 times out of 10, he can be your best player. He's your orchestra. If the opposition have done their homework on your team, and they've put and they're nullifying him, you've got to be big enough, strong enough, wise enough to change it.
Yeah.
You've got to do. Otherwise, they're an advantage.
Of course.
And I think that's where Ole lets his kind of self down, but he lets himself down because who's he got to turn to?
Yeah.
You see him having conversations with Carrick, and as great a footballer he were, and this McKenna, who from all intents and purposes finished his career at a young age, 20.
Cracking CV.
Cracking as a coach. He's come in and run the under-18s after Paul McGuinness had left. He's a coach, but he's had no experience of management. And making these... So they're scratching their heads, whereas I think that is where Ole probably needed at the side of him a probably slightly younger Sir Alex Ferguson.
Definitely.
That he's going to take a back seat, but he's giving him some advice.
You mentioned the name, and I'm not going to laugh at it because I thought it was a good idea. You even mentioned someone like, someone with the experience of a Harry Redknapp. Someone who's ruthless and not scared to make decisions.
Who's not going to be United manager. Ollie is.
Yeah.
But he can bounce things off him.
Managerial experience.
And he's been there and he's dealt with and he's seen it and he's done it. You've kind of thrown a rookie in, massive club, massive pressure.
But not giving him the resources.
And not helping. He's not getting any help. And you can see it on his face, the poor lad. Yeah.
But people will say that he selected them people.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, probably.
Or did he?
But did he? At the end of the day, did he? I mean, obviously, he's tried. But the coaches, I mean, look, the nearest to what I'm saying is Mickey Phelan. But Mickey Phelan, for me, has not been a proven manager.
He's had one job as a manager.
He's been a top player, and he's been a coach, and he's worked under Sir Alex. But he's worked under Sir Alex, but he's not been a frontliner himself.
No.
I think he did a short stint at Hull.
Hull City about 6 months.
He failed.
Yeah, sacked.
But no disrespect, he's a coach getting a manager's job.
Yeah, he took over from Steve Bruce. But like you say, it's a coach getting a manager's job.
Coaching and managing, totally different game.
And that's,
I keep saying it all the time, it's totally different. Don't appoint, if you want a manager, appoint a manager. Don't appoint a coach to manage.
But what you're saying is that Ollie needed and needs managerial support. Somebody with managerial experience.
I think so. I mean, this is one, and I've only thought it out. Just on here, now.
Go on.
He's already at Man United. He's an ambassador. Brian Robson would do a better job than probably half of them stood outside of him.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny.
Rather being in hospitality on a match day, showing people around ground, he'd be better off pitch side.
He would. And I just
with his Middlesbrough experience for a start.
Exactly, and I'm just thinking it just come to me then.
Yeah.
Well, he needs that. Ask me if I think Ollie should be the manager.
Should Ollie be the manager?
100%.
Yeah, I agree with you.
100%. But
that guidance needs to be there.
Everything about the club's not right at the minute, and he's the one that's taking the rap.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't be taking the rap. he made, and I mean, for me, the other night, he made, now, look, I can't defend him on this, look, no matter what level of football anybody's at watching, we all have an opinion.
Yeah.
And we can all stand on a terracing and say, why has he not picked him today? Why is he taking him off? He's one of our best. People will always voice their opinion and always decide that, so and so. Even now on the England team, people are deciding. Burnley supporters are saying that because their interest is that Pope should be in goal. Other people will say Henderson, and other people, whoever. Everybody will have these opinions. So it's opinions, right? So in terms of this, what I've got to say, I'm saying it purely from a managerial, from my position. Not, we can all have opinions, but when I'm watching that game on Wednesday night, the full game, I'm watching everything, and from the off, I'm seeing Marcus Rashford well below where he should be.
Yeah.
But we'll come to why in a minute. And every time he got the ball, they were doubling up on him, and he kind of tried his tricks but ran into a brick wall and lost it. Then I look on the other side, where you've got Mason Greenwood, who's facing the same scenario as Marcus has faced, where he's getting doubled up on, because they were doubling up on it on Mason as well. But Mason had a trick or two, was getting round him, and he wasn't wasteful. And
he's getting a bit more joy from the situation.
He was getting more joy from the situation, and he was kind of making things happen. So when Manchester United made Ollie made his substitution, his first substitution, right, I'm thinking to myself, there's only one person got to be going off here, and it's got to be Rashford. And when I see Mason Greenwood come on, I'm disgusted, because I thought that showed weak management.
Bottle job.
It was a bottle job. It was this easy option.
Yeah.
It was this easy option. Now, I'm sorry, anybody who wants to be a manager, and a successful manager, has to be ruthless and live and die by the sword and make strong managerial decisions. Even if it comes down to, at some point, subbing a sub, it doesn't matter. Even if the sub, which shouldn't happen, and they get monkeyed absolutely chastised if this happened with me, start taking the shirt off and throwing tantrums and kicking water bottles and all that. It doesn't matter. End of the day, sort yourself out. You should play better. If you want to stay on that thing, you've a divine. The only divine right you have been on that pitch is by performing. Yeah. And if you're not performing to how you should perform, then I'm sorry, there's going to be changes, and you're going to be one of the first that's going to come off. Yeah. Now, in my eyes, that was kind of weak management, and I kind of couldn't see where he was coming from with that one. Equally, when it was in the second half of the extra time and it got to the penalty, we're getting nearer and nearer the penalty situation.
Yeah, we're lining up his penalty takers, weren't we?
And given that De Gea has not got a good record in saving penalties, and Henderson has, then maybe another one he should have looked at was taking De Gea off in the second half of extra time, gearing himself up for the pens. Yeah. But listen, that scenarios and if buts and maybes, any manager, I don't know. And like I just said at the beginning, we can all be managers and we can all have an opinion of he should pick this team and this and he should pick that team and all that. But I think certainly, definitely, the Rashford one, taking Mason off, was kind of not right, under the circumstances.
But there's another situation that you've got, and we've touched upon it this week since the final, Brent, is you look back at your bench. What has he got to change?
Oh yeah, well, everybody's been going on.
You should do this, you should do that. But what's he got? What's he got?
You know what the trouble is with communities, with life in general. Do you know what the big problem is?
Go on.
On any walk of life, you know what the big problem is? People can be brainwashed by the power of people on television.
Oh, of course they can. Yeah.
So let me tell you,
because they put them on these pedestals.
Pedestals. So let me tell you. So if you've got somebody on there saying that on TV saying, or even on media or whatever, and saying Steve Brown's a legend of the game. You know, it's a bunking. Steve Brown's all of a sudden you'll be a legend of the game because
a couple of celebrities have said so.
Have said so, and the media make that assumption, right? So this is my point now, going into this situation. And unless you've been, and again, I'd like to think that the managers out there listening to this will embrace what I'm saying here, because they will have been, I'm sure, in the same situation. I know I certainly have here, because I don't have an assistant manager. I have an head coach who's involved in all the tactical, in the shape that I want to play, and obviously set pieces, everything else that goes in that, and coaching. But I have gone through times at this football club, again because it's come down to financial situations, where I've been standing alone in that technical area, and I've had nobody to bounce anything off when I've wanted to. So, and when you're stood in a technical area and your mind thinks one thing, you know, you don't just think one thing, you think another thing, and you can't just think which is going to be the best.
Sometimes you just might want that reassurance.
Yeah, you need to bounce something off somebody, and when you haven't got that, and this is where I think that Ollie's lacking a little bit, and I feel sorry for him on, when you haven't got that situation, it becomes a bit of an issue and a problem, because you can easily make very much the wrong decision, and there is an old saying, it's good to talk. And when you talk, little things can come and think, you know what, Dave?
That's not a bad idea, Dave.
I never thought of that, Dave. Yeah. That's good,
we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. That's what happens. But what I'm trying to say is, again, going back to the television punditries, all you heard, and I think this, I don't know, and I mean, I'm not having a go at Robbie Savage here. I am in a way, but blimey, it's as though if you're going to say something on TV, say something that's really, really constructive. Say something, if you're a co-commentator, say something that, you know, like, I'd rather you turn around and say something like...
That your normal Joe blogs wouldn't know.
You know, in that position today, you know, Hernandez playing, you know, in his usual, between the lines, there's no space for him, so he's having to drop back to get on the ball. That's fine, that's okay, because you're talking tactical and you're talking... You're giving education views. If you turn around and say, you know, Marcus is... He's struggling out there today. You know, he's been faced with 2v1 situation every time, and he hasn't beat his man every time. Again, you're saying the obvious that you know, you can see that. So you're giving any, but when you're co-commentating, getting whatever you get for co-commentating, you're going, why isn't they've done 5 subs, they've done 4 subs. Why is Ollie not freshening it up? They look a fresh team. They've got in their foot on the ball. Why is he not making these subs? So straight away, it's all right, Robbie Savage bleating that out. Why is Ollie not making them subs and bleating that situation? But the millions of people that's listening on TV,
bloody know why.
Apart from me, because I don't listen to, I shut off from him because his voice gets me down. Right, I shut off from him. But he's there on TV and he's going, why is Ollie not making these substitutions? I can't understand, why is he not putting him? So then that's brainwashing Joe Public out there to then slaughter Ollie when they've got beat because he hasn't made substitutions. Yeah. But I'm not being funny. You look at that bench.
Look over your shoulder and have a look.
That's the reason why I ain't got, because
no one's going to change a game.
Well, there's only one player on that bench that I thought
and he got brought on.
Well, yeah, but he brought on for the penalty. There's only one person who changed a game, in my opinion, on that bench, was Mata.
Yeah.
But the big issue you've got with Mata, to get the best out of Mata, you've got to take Hernandez off.
Yeah.
because he plays that role. But Hernandez weren't doing. He wasn't really doing a lot wrong. He just couldn't. He was
being mocked out of the game.
So who else? There was nobody really on that bench that were going to change the game, and I'm convinced that Ole knew that. Because let's be honest, if you don't start with a Cavani, and if you don't start with a Rashford, or you don't start with a Mason Greenwood, and you have them on the bench, and you start with whoever you start with, then if you look at the bench, then you've got game changers on the bench in Cavani, Rashford and Mason Greenwood. So you can bring them on. But when you start with them, you think, and probably the conversation, and I'd like to have been a fly on the wall.
You've got to start with them.
Because otherwise, what I'm trying to say is, if I'm a fly on the wall in the conversation that he's having with his coaching staff before that game, we've got to start with the strongest side. We've got to start with these. But you know what? We've got sod all option if anything goes pear-shaped.
So there's no plan B.
You can imagine that conversation.
Yeah. We're ghost if we're not in the, game.
Robbie, you know, you've got Macclesfield. You'll get a rude awakening, I'm telling you, in the North West Counties Premier Division with that Macclesfield, right? You'll get a rude awakening. You need to change your mentality, because turning around and saying, why is he not bringing subs on? You're not so stupid to understand that bench wasn't the best. And that's probably why he stalled at making them substitutions.
There'll be lots of opportunities for him to put square pegs in round holes.
Yeah. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So that's probably why he stalled and didn't make the changes, because as we all do when we're sat at home, well, who's he going to take off? Who's he going to put on?
Yeah.
But
you ask yourself the question, you think, hold on a minute. I ask myself the question, well, why is he not making a substitution? But then you slow it down and you think, hold on a minute, he can't make a substitution because there's no point, because it's not actually going to improve the game.
Well, like you say, unless you put square pegs in round holes, we can all say, well, you could have took Pogba off, and he could have put, you know. So if he takes Pogba,
but we spoke about this the other week.
You would not put Mata. Personally, I wouldn't put Pogba where he had Pogba anyway. That's just my personal opinion. Look, let's talk Pogba a little bit here. Since Pogba's come to the club, I've had conversations. I can go back 3 years, even with Laquan Ensdale and Adrian Bellamy here, and they used to laugh at me. This is another one brainwashed.
Adrian will be watching this.
This is another brainwashed episode with people.
Yeah. World-class player.
Who's saying he's a world-class player? You're a world-class player if you turn in world-class performances. Yeah. But I don't see him turning in, week out, world-class performances. What has he done? World-class performances. He scored an absolute worldie goal against Burnley. Yeah. What's he done since?
Robbie Brady scored a world-class goal. He hasn't played for Burnley ever since.
You get where I'm coming from. So it's easy to turn around and say you're a world-class player, but prove it. Yeah. So for me, Pogba hasn't done enough. Yeah.
And that stage against Villareal the other night, that was the opportunity to show everyone that you're a world-class player.
I always remember Sir Alex. We were a big thing to Sir Alex. We don't give the ball away. Do not give the ball away. Yeah. Pass to the nearest man. Keep the ball moving. Don't give the ball.
Keep it simple.
But if you give the ball away, you had to work twice as hard to win that ball back. Right? You as an individual, because you've given away. How many balls did he give away the other night, Pogba?
Countless.
How many?
Countless.
I think it was his ball that he gave away that led to the free kick that led to the goal.
Yeah. But then there was another one.
He's a world-class player.
Yeah. But then there was another one we were talking about. When they were attacking, I think they lost the ball in the final third, and then attack turns into defence, and Cavani is passing the midfield.
Well, yeah, because
to defend.
Because Pogba be ambling up thinking about his Twitter account after game.
Yeah, doing selfies.
It winds me up, honestly. Honestly, it winds me up. And who's the person that is getting the brunt?
Well, it comes back to the one man, doesn't it?
It's coming back to Ole.
And you can see the blood was drained from his face.
So I'm not being funny. You've got Pogba that supposedly, again, world-class player, plays for France, he's done this in the World Cup, right? but prove that you're a world-class player. You've got to be consistent to be a world-class player, right? That was a big stage for him. Was only let down by Pogba on the night. 100%.
Yeah.
Would most managers out there, prior to the game, hindsight's a wonderful thing, would most managers out there have put Pogba in the starting lineup, given his kudos in the game? I would say yes, they would.
Yeah, you'd expect him to
You'd
deliver.
expect him to be in there and expect him to deliver, right? He was put in, so always put him in, because if he hadn't put him in, he'd have got chastised for not putting him in.
Papers would have been at
He
it.
has put him in, right? Pogba has not delivered. Pogba was a disgrace, in my opinion. His ball retention was shocking, right?
But we mentioned it a few weeks back, Brent. We spoke about the fact that, you know, United probably have 3 or 4 quality players, and if those players don't turn up to the show,
excuse me,
the cracks appear.
well, another thing is, right, I'm going to give you another one. Again, when you're playing a team like Villareal, you need who got back in when they'd attack you. The best strength for Man United is counter-attacking, right? Now, there were times in that game that Villareal come at United and got high up the pitch and got around the box, and United won it back. But when United win the ball back in that situation, that is when you've got to really quickly move the ball and get it forward. But they didn't. They slowed it down, and then Villareal get back behind them. So it's like basically saying to them, come on lads, get behind the ball and then we can start to play.
Yeah.
That's how it looked to me.
Yeah.
Right now,
Rather than bursting out.
yeah. Now you look at. I'm going to use some examples here. Right. So you look at Man City and you look at Kyle Walker and you look at a former Tottenham player, former Burnley player in Kieran Trippier.
Yeah.
Both players at every opportunity when they get the ball in a wide position will step into that space. If there's space in front of them, they will attack it and step into it. Right? Now, where are all these people that are turning round and thinking that Wan-Bissaka is an England international? I am not being funny. He's not ready to play for England because he's playing with. He needs to express himself more. Defending 1v1 defending, he might be the best at 1v1 defending. But we all know that playing right back or left back is not just about 1v1 defending.
No.
It's about the ethics of defending. It's about linking play up and getting forward and supporting.
Like what you used to see from players like Ashley Cole.
Yes.
Who used to attack.
But you've got Wan-Bissaka there, and it happened on several times. I just tell people, if you think I'm talking balls, because we come on this show and we say we talk balls, play the video back, please, and see the times where he's had chance to open up and attack that space. And then if it closes up, then stop, be controlled, play your little give and goals. By that time, your give and goals gets you further up the pitch, but he doesn't. He gets the ball, he's got the space there, even if it's only to move 15 yards. He doesn't move 15 yards and he doesn't attack that 15 yards. He looks back to his centre-back and says, here, have it back again.
And then the opportunity's gone.
And the opportunity's gone. And it just absolutely frustrates the life out of me. Honest and truthfully, it does.
Yeah.
But so it's no wonder that United are supposed to be linked with Kieran Trippier. I honestly hope they can go and get him.
Yeah, that'd be a fantastic.
Because I think Kieran...
It gives you that.
And one thing about Kieran as well, let me tell you, Cavani, his strength, I don't care what anybody says, his strength, his movement's brilliant, but his strength, he's got aerial presence. But who's been connect crosses balls for him?
Yeah.
United don't do that. It's all intricate round the box, thinking playing through the lines.
Yeah. Interesting, but yeah, it could be a target during the summer. A lot of people talking about, Ollie on social media. A lot of supporters coming out as you were keyboard warriors. Sack him. That's not going to happen, and that should never happen, should it? He's going to be. No,
there's the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, I do think he needs somebody more experienced at signing him. I think he needs that. I think the recruitment needs to be a lot better. at Man United, and don't forget, again, you can only look at and I've said it on this show past, he can only deal with in certain areas with the rubbish that he's dealing with. But he'll never say the rubbish because he's not going to put somebody under a bus. So it is a problem. I mean, Ollie's the manager, and we've got to accept that. And I think majority of genuine Manchester United supporters, genuine, there are idiots out there that I ain't even genuine, and then other people that are having gripes are probably, the rivals like the Liverpool supporters, and they jump on the bandwagon and they'll be saying stuff nonsense. Because it's just nonsense. Yeah. Because they will do, and not just Liverpool, Man City, and I'm talking genuine football people. I kind
genuine football people. I'm not United support, but I want Ollie to succeed. I think most supporters want Ollie to succeed.
He's genuinely, he's well liked, he's well respected, he comes across well, he needs help, and he is
honest in the interviews.
And he's honest with everything. He's as honest as he can be with everything. And I really do think, and I feel for him, and I feel for his help, because obviously he's carrying a weight on his shoulder. Man United's a massive club, and he's carrying that weight on his own. And he's made mistakes. Of course he's made mistakes. But do we all not make mistakes? I mean, we're even arguing now away from football with the government. Have they made mistakes with this blinking COVID? Well, obviously they have, because we've never heard of COVID before.
Yeah.
But, we've just got to try and rally round and try and make it a lot better for everybody. Well, it's the same at Man United. Ollie's there, let's get one thing straight, but we need to back him. But equally, he needs the guidance, because he is slightly inexperienced in game time management when it needs these decisions that he has to make. What you need to make, and what are thrown up at you. But I think that brings us away from that. But that brings us what really has upset us all, I think, is the fact that Marcus Rashford picks his phone up, and he's got 70 odd and counting racial abuse. I mean, what is the world coming to? And people, it's not just Marcus. It's there's other players at it.
No, it's right across the board.
It's rife, and it's ridiculous. And I still say it, and I say it again. Whether we like it or we don't, these footballers like Marcus, the fact that Marcus was probably one of not many, I would think, that controls his own social media accounts. So technically, what I'm saying here, because Marcus probably controls his own accounts, you actually are getting straight to him.
Yeah, you're speaking to him.
So he's accessible. And
he's made himself accessible.
He's made himself accessible, and I say, it is good, but I think the only way that you're going to eradicate this hate and racial is by not being able to be accessible.
But then you're spoiling it for the true supporters who want that interaction with their players.
I get it, but that's what happens, isn't it, for anybody? You can say that about anything in life, isn't it? Well, I get that.
Looked after by a PR company.
Well, I don't think that even the ones that are looked after by a PR company, I don't honestly think. I think what will stop it is, they come away from, so they can't get to you.
Yeah.
In the past, certainly when I was, could I get to George Best? We'll talk George Best because it was good.
Only if you booked him.
You couldn't get anywhere near George Best. You had to go and bump into him in a blinking nightclub or somewhere. Yeah. So as a supporter, you could not interact with George Best.
No.
Right? You could not interact with Sir Bobby Charlton. You could not interact with Dennis Law. You could not interact with Nobby Stiles. Yeah. You could not interact
on the match
with
day if you got pitch side.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't interact with them. You couldn't get near them. So that made it even better, because they were more you were more in awe of them because you couldn't get near them.
But then they were protected from the nonsense which we have today.
But modern day players are allowing themselves to be more accessible to the fans.
A lot of that is publicity as well. They want the publicity.
Yeah, but if you're being accessible to the fans, you're accessible to everybody, including non-fans, who can pretend they're fans.
Yeah.
And that's what gets you, they're getting to you. So Marcus, so let's put it this way, Marcus didn't have... So, for everybody out there, do you honestly think that Marcus Rashford went onto that pitch deliberately to put in a bad performance? No, he did not. And neither does any other player, Pogba, whoever. I'm sure they do not go on, well I know, they do not go onto that pitch. They want to win that cup as much as we want them to win that cup, and most other football people who are genuinely from your country that you wanted them to win that cup. They want them to win that cup. So they want the same. They're human beings. There's lots of things why, no matter how talented you are, why you could be going through a bad time on the day. One of the things could be that you're a target to the opposition that nullify your game, as we've talked about, that take you out the game. So obviously they stop what you're good at. That is one point. Another point can be like, you know, obviously you could be felt under the weather. Yeah.
Personal issues taken.
Personal issues at home, which we would not be privy to or anything. There could be several things, you know, that's going on, which can dictate that you've got or playing an under par performance. Like, take Marcus Rashford. He's coming for a lot of criticism and a lot of abuse because he's been putting in for the last few weeks under par performances. Now, I'm 100% not privy to this, but I'm obviously know what goes on into football clubs, and I know for a fact that Marcus Rashford has been playing with some bad injuries.
Yeah, since last year.
Since last year. And he needs an operation. But the issue is, and it happens whether you think it's right or wrong or indifferently, the issue is that these football clubs, they're injecting them.
Yeah.
Nullify the pain to get them through 90 minutes.
Which is making it worse.
Which,
in the long term.
In the long term, isn't helping anybody, right? I think the PFA and there's things happen now where they've got to be guided by it. I don't think it's kind of as rife as it used to be. But there's no doubts in my mind that Marcus has been playing whilst we're not being 100% fit, and it's taken its toll. And he's been targeted, and you could see in previous games whenever he goes down, and you can see by the expression on his face.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was coming off the other night. I thought he looked that bad. He was. He pulled up. He was coming up.
Yeah. But my point is, what people do, and there'll be cynics on this listening to this show and say, well, he shouldn't have been picked. That again is easier said than done, because we're all like any manager out there. If he's one of your main strikers, would you rather have a striker playing that knows the game, natural finisher, everything, and he's operating at 75, 80%, or have a fully fit young lad that
well, I know for a fact if that was you would turn around to your physio, Jack Fairhurst, and you'd say, Jack, can you get that man fit for tonight? And if Jack turns around to you and says yes, you say, crack on and do it. Because you want him on that pitch.
I want him on that pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a prediction the other night, and this is again my experience coming out. Knowing what that Bailey's like, right? To me, that Bailey's got, he's weak. He's got nothing. What I mean by
weak-minded.
Weak-minded.
Yeah.
And the one thing you don't do with a weak, white-minded person is say to him at end of full time,
I'm laughing because we had this conversation yesterday afternoon.
Are you all right? Oh, Gaffer. Oh, hang on.
Don't ask that bloody question.
I can just feel my hamstring. Oh, well, are you all right? Well, I don't know. Yeah. Are you all right for it?
The penalties are coming up.
I don't know. So you know he was coming off.
He can't wait to get off.
He's the worst player that you can say that to. Are you all right? I mean, I've got him in here. There's certain players that I wouldn't say that to, because if I said it to them, I'm not going to name them on here and shame them. But I know for a fact...
They'll be out road.
Oh, thank goodness, get me out of that blinking, spotlight.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You don't ask them questions.
No.
Let them tell you. Hey, Gaffer, I'm feeling me. So you get physio. Is he all right?
Give it a couple of minutes.
Let's have a look. Do you know what I mean?
Run it off.
Get on with it, you soft sod. What you like? Are you a man or a blinking mouse?
But as you said, there's been not just Marcus, who did an interview yesterday. By all accounts, we're probably looking at 4, 5, possibly 6 players who have been playing with injuries since late last year.
Well, that brings us back to the recruitment and obviously the strength in depth. He hasn't had the strength in depth, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Man City have been able to make linking changes every game, rotate, but everywhere in his squad, they've got quality and experience. You know what I'm saying? So,
totally different.
You've got to look at the bigger picture. Manchester United as a club, there are problems that need eradicating, and the problem isn't the problem. I'm sorry, but the problem isn't Ollie. Far from it. The problem is
what's going on around it.
It's exactly, and what is inherited.
Yeah. Last point I want to make, and we want to make it because Blackpool, our beloved Blackpool, just down the 6 and 55, they're in the playoff final.
You know what?
I'm happy for them.
You're really happy. You know what? We're talking about Manchester United being my club, my main club. I've always thought. But my very first team, when I was growing up, the very first football match I was ever taken to was as a young boy. Was Bloomfield Road and Blackpool, because my mum, my late mother, God bless her, worked in the slipper factory, and she worked with a guy, and I don't know if he's still with us or not, but a guy called Donald Rose, who was a big Blackpool supporter. Yeah. And in them days, the Yellowway coaches used to go the regular service going through the valley to Blackpool, to Bloom, and actually parked on the coach park was on Bloomfield Road, higher up than the ground. So he took me to my very first football match was watching Blackpool. So I've got a kind of a soft spot for Blackpool. I've got an affinity for them, and to see that they're going to the Division 1 playoff final on Sunday, I think it is, against Lincoln City. I mean, Dave Felgate will obviously, I'm sure, will be wanting Lincoln City because it's a former club.
Of course.
And we know that our friend at St Helens, oh no, he's not at St Helens now, I'll slap my hands, he's manager of Pilkington, isn't he? He's a big Lincoln supporter, but my heart and my head, Blackpool. And Neil Critchley, we wish you and the boys all the very best, and hope that you come out on top and you become a championship club. It looks like Blackpool, both on and off the pitch, are back on track again, and a club on the up after the recent past few years of turmoil. Yeah.
Anyway, Brent, it's been an absolute pleasure this show. It's been really informative. Get your thoughts on United and what's going on, and I'm sure we'll hear more in the coming weeks, but have a good weekend.
Same to you. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Take care.